The final speaker of this session is a well-known Filipino lawyer, labor organizer, and a human rights activist. He is also known for his dedication to public interest cases and social justice causes. With a background in representing clients from various sectors, including laborers and urban poor communities, our next speaker has made significant strides in the legal arena. As a climate justice advocate, his vision encompasses the ambitious Coal-Free 2030 initiative, which pushes for the phased-out transition from fossil fuels to 100% renewable energy sources. This ambitious and driven individual is none other than Attorney Luke Espiritu. Please give him a round of applause.
Batiun ko na yung mga Ilonggo. Now, this is my first time to perform in this type of platform. So I decided to simply speak plainly, the way I do in many street demonstrations and public speeches in the schools. So that means I'm going to be trilingual this afternoon. I will speak English, Tagalog, and of course, may Ilonggo man tayo. Now, first, I just want to take you down the memory lane. 3 days ago was November 7. That was 10 years to the day when Typhoon Yolanda swept through Samar and Leyte. And it had a peak wind speed of 315 kilometers per hour. And in order for us to appreciate this type of wind speed, it is a record-breaking wind speed for any typhoon that hit land. And let me cite some figures regarding the consequences of this almost apocalyptic tragedy in our country. More than 6,000 individuals lost their lives. Around 1,700 are still missing until today. And 4.1 million lost their homes. 6 million have been left with no means for survival. And if we have to appreciate the depths of the destruction that we are facing, we must remember that in 2013, 10 years ago, the global climate temperature rise was only limited to 0.62 Celsius above pre-industrial levels. 0.62. At that level of temperature rise, we have seen bloated bodies strewn in the streets of Tacloban. The stench of death was everywhere. And 10 years from then, we are already witnessing scientists all around the world declaring a scientist rebellion, a climate rebellion. Why? Because since 2015, we have a worldwide consensus that we must reduce our carbon emissions drastically to zero because we need to limit our global warming to 1.5 degrees. Otherwise, everything will be irreversible. Pag sinabi nating irreversible, we must understand that greenhouse gases remain in the atmosphere and will not be absorbed by the natural capacity of our Earth. They remain for hundreds and thousands of years. So if they remain in the atmosphere and we will still experience global warming, the effects will be catastrophic. Let me illustrate. In the Philippines alone, if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius, that would already mean and will translate to 90% of our coral reefs will be destroyed. At 2 degrees Celsius, 95 to 99% of our coral reefs will disappear. And imagine the implications to our food security, to our capacity to feed ourselves if that happens. The climate crisis will result in the destruction of our agriculture, in coastal villages being destroyed because the polar ice caps are melting in the billions of tons as we speak. And there will be disruptions everywhere and viruses new strains because of the new environment will appear. We have COVID-19, COVID-20, 21, 22, 23, and so on. Is not far around the corner. And so, the scientists say, and the best minds of our society, with the best, equipped with the best and latest scientific knowledge, they are warning everyone, and they are up in arms, that if we do not drastically transition to zero carbon emissions, then there will be nothing short than apocalypse. I'm not joking. That's the best scientific conclusion that we have. In Los Angeles, these scientists were willing to get arrested and get jailed. They even handcuffed themselves to the J.P. Chase Morgan building. In Madrid, these scientists splashed red paint onto the walls and steps of the Spanish parliament. Why? Because while there is a consensus to change things, our world leaders, our billionaires, our corporations are still doing business as usual. And we will not reach the target of 1.5 degrees Celsius. At the rate that things are going, we will reach 2.2 degrees Celsius to 3.5 degrees Celsius. And that is the problem. And what would be the solution? The solution would be based on our analysis of what caused the climate catastrophe to begin with. What caused this climate catastrophe? What? Everyone is in agreement that it is the system, the prevailing one that we have, that caused our problems. And this system has many names. Some call it industrialization since 1850. Others call it our system of extraction, production, distribution, and consumption. But there is a common name to this system that we are referring to. It is called the capitalist system. The kind of system that intends or whose direction is to produce not for use of majority of our people, not for use, but for profit. A system that thrives on competition to rake in billions and trillions of profit. And this results in overproduction and results in our climate crisis because of two reasons. Because of the over-extraction. We mine the minerals that we need. We cut the forest for raw materials. Then we are destroying the capacity of the earth to absorb these greenhouse gases. And number two, our production is based on energy coming from fossil fuels, from coal, from natural gas, and from oil. And this emits, through our energy needs, 73% of all the greenhouse gases that we have right now. And the solution, if that is the problem, the system of capitalism is the problem, the solution cannot come from the conditions and requirements of that system. Cannot. Hindi maaari na ang solusyon sa problema ay manggagaling mismo doon sa source ng problema. That's logical. That's simple reasoning. Why? Because that very system that destroyed the earth contains within it all the limitations that will prevent the adoption of solutions. Instead, if we find solutions within the system, then we are bound to commit and apply false solutions. The solutions to our climate crisis must come from beyond that system, from conditions, from reasons, from modes and means that go beyond the framework of capitalism, that go beyond the framework of profit-making. And I say that these solutions have already been agreed upon all over the world. But governments everywhere fail to adopt this. 3 words will encapsulate the solution to our climate crisis. Number 1, we must transition from dirty energy to renewable energy, and that transition must be, 1, a rapid transition. Number 2, it must be an equitable transition. Number 3, it must be a just transition. It cannot be, in other words, business as usual. Number 1, rapid, meaning to say, motivations of profit-making must not dictate upon these solutions. Bibigyan ko kayo ng halimbawa. Sa Pilipinas, ang gobyerno natin, while it commits to this transition, pays lip service to the protection of our environment, and commits to transitioning from coal to renewable energy, anong sabi ng gobyerno natin? Hindi muna tayo makaka-transition sa renewable energy. Why? Kasi ang sabi nila, we must undergo a certain purgatory. Before you get to heaven, you go to purgatory. We must have a transitional source of energy. And that transitional source of energy is natural gas. So, they agree, we must decommission all of our coal-fired power plants, but not to directly go into renewable energy. We must pass that purgatory. We must pass through liquefied natural gas. Why is it problematic? It is problematic because do you know that liquefied natural gas is 28 times more dangerous than carbon dioxide because it emits methane. It does not emit carbon dioxide, it emits a more noxious gas, methane. And yet, our government provides this as false solutions. Why? Because of the profit motive. Our billionaires and capitalists, our property owners, they cannot yet earn from renewable energy. That's why they need this so-called middle ground for them to protect their profits. The result is the transition is not rapid. And it's not only not rapid and slow, it may never come because these are false solutions. We must have a rapid solution that goes beyond the premises of capitalist economic system. Number 2, we must have an equitable transition, meaning to say that rich countries that have emitted more greenhouse gases through their industrialization, and they are located in the global north, they must bear the heavier burden of responsibility to solve this problem. By what? By making available finance and technology to the global south. Our culpability with this problem can never be equal. We have industrialized later. They have industrialized 150 years ago. And they have emitted several thousands of gigatons of carbon dioxide. Thousands, in the thousands, that blanket our planet. Now, the third is, we must have a just transition. Meaning to say, in just transition, no one must be left behind. Especially our workers, especially our laboring masses. Solutions must not be pursued for the benefit of the property owner. For example, in our country, we have a jeepney modernization program. It's a rapid transition from dilapidated jeepneys to modern jeepneys. And they are trying to package it as something that will solve our environment, but at what cost? At the cost of our small drivers, of our operators. Bahala na si Batman pagdating sa kanila. And that is not just transition. Just transition must not exacerbate the very oppression that capitalism has created. In addition to the fact that capitalism has destroyed our planet, it has oppressed majority of the people. And just transition must solve these two problems. The problem of our climate and the problem of our oppression. We are in the crossroads of history, my friends. And we have been in that position many times in human history, when we have to solve and decide the kind of transition that we want. I could cite a few. During the time when feudalism was decaying, there was a question, what kind of society will we build? The ruling classes, the property owners, the elites, they answered the question by saying, we will build a society that praises and adores private property and profit. But the proletariat, the workers in history, have their own ideas about the kind of society they're going to build. It should be a just and humane society. During anti-colonial times, the same question. The question was, after we kick out our colonial masters, what kind of society we are going to build? And the property owners, same answer. We're going to build a society wherein we are protected, our properties are protected, our profits are protected. But the masses, the proletariat, would answer that question by saying, no, we must have a kind of society that is just and humane. The same is true when we were faced with military dictatorships and we fought against military dictatorships. The same class conflict, answering the same question, what kind of society we're going to build. And this is the fourth one in history. What kind of decarbonized world are we going to build? And the same is the answer. We must build a just and humane society in a decarbonized world for the benefit of everyone and not for the benefit of those who have destroyed the environment to begin with. Thank you very much.